Hello, today we have Cherie joining us. Upcoming, we've got Mario, Ann, Michael, Jennifer, and Mars Robertson. It's going to be an exciting 6 weeks, so get ready. But today, I am your host, Kent Langley. Kevin Allen is out of the office and gone missing. He's actually gone to Africa Burn. We hope he returns. We think he'll come back. We're not sure, but we'll see. And I just want to remind everybody that OpenExO Live was created to showcase the amazing people and capabilities of the OpenExO community, to learn more about them and to share what they're doing so that others can learn about them as well. Our community now is over 17,000 strong, but today you get to hear about one, and that's going to be Cherie Mylordis. And Cherie, you tell me later if I'm getting your name right, please. But Cherie's in Sydney, Australia. She spent many years researching and understanding how progressive organizations adopt radically different cultures and leadership styles. She uses this expertise to guide leaders toward profound changes, empowering them to step into the bold new future of work. She believes that most organizations today have outdated models that don't allow them to innovate, transform, or grow. Cherie's career has included a number of strategic roles, such as being a senior manager for the Sydney 2000 Olympic and Paralympic Games and a large, somewhat mysterious to me, startup that had a very high profile and a fixed deadline. Are you ready today for understanding some benefits of becoming a member of the OpenExO global ecosystem, information about coaching on sprints, founding NextGenify, Cherie's company, leading contemporary purpose, strategy, and leadership projects for clients, mentoring emerging leaders to step into challenging new roles, business transformation, leadership coaching, change management, organizational culture, evolutionary organizations, agile and business agility, human-centered design, innovation, and learning a little bit about the attributes of exponential organizations. Wow. So that's just a few of the things we're going to try to cover today with Cherie, and I think we're going to do it. So this episode of OpenExO Live is absolutely not one that you want to miss. Cherie, welcome. How are you today?
I'm great, Ken. Thank you. And you're saying my name just perfectly. So well
Awesome.
done.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have a tendency sometimes to get those wrong. So I'm super excited to have you today. But before we start, I've got one more thing we have to go through. So keep your eyes peeled. This should be fun. Cherie is a wonderful and passionate coach in person. She proactively listens before bringing powerful and pointed insights from her wealth of wisdom. Integrating amazing emotional intelligence with her expertise in agile, she empowers awesome teams and outcomes. That's from Trent Wheeler, one of our other community members, a growth and innovation catalyst. Sophie Krantz had to say about Cherie. Cherie and I completed our EXO coaching certification as teammates around 4 years ago, and since then, we've worked together on different EXO projects and sprints. I've come to know Cherie as humble, never one to sing her own praises, yet her achievements and contributions are significant. As a coach, Cherie inspires her teams to build innovative initiatives and solutions that are always anchored with a compelling MTP and achieve strong ROI. As a colleague, Cherie enables and energizes. Her regular contributions on leadership, coaching, and innovation-based practices elevate her fellow coaches. Thank you to Cherie for being an inspiring coach and a wonderful colleague. That's wonderful, Sophie. Lars Lynn, he says, taking your organization through an EXO sprint process is transformative, but also challenging. This is why we highly recommend adding certified EXO coaches to your sprint teams. 7 years into running EXO sprints, Cherie still holds the #1 position as coach in my book. When it comes to the mastery of both professional coaching toward transformative goals, empathy, acceleration of team performance, and domain insights, add creativity and complex problem solving to the list and hire Cherie right away. Sending my virtual hugs from Copenhagen in springtime and sprint time, the venerable Lars. And Lars has seen a lot of sprints, Cherie. So that is big praise. So what do you think about that? Isn't that amazing?
I haven't seen any of those testimonials before. I'm actually quite blown away. I think Lars is one of the most incredible people I've ever met. So to hear that from him is very humbling.
We do too. That is high praise from all of those. fellow coaches of yours. So look, we've got a lot of questions to go through today. And I think the easiest way to kick us off is if you just tell us a little bit about how you came to join the OpenExO community. What brought you here?
Sure. Well, as you've said a little bit in my intro, I'm really passionate about organizations that are doing quite radical and extraordinary things. And so I started my career in organizational change with a big consulting firm. And you heard about my Olympics experience. That 5 years was absolutely life-changing. And to really have to collaborate on such a massive scale was just amazing. And to be bold and courageous to work on something so enormous, it really did change everything about my career and my approach to my work and my life. And since then, I've been bold enough to explore many new disciplines. So agile design thinking, business transformation, innovation, and that led to an introduction to Emily Sidney Smith. And from there, I became a certified coach with Sophie as part of OpenExO. And then I've worked on a few sprints, so in both Thailand and Australia. And I've been a mentor coach and also been involved in some training. So that's really how the journey evolved.
And I heard about 4 years, so it's been action-packed, it sounds like. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that draws us all together is our massive transformative purposes. OpenExO has the MTP to transform the world for a better future. I have an MTP to empower people with technology. What's yours?
Well, my MTP is to enable people and organizations to achieve extraordinary outcomes. I really love the word extraordinary because it means something that's different and out of the ordinary, but in a special way. And I think it's all about making a difference. And I also think that extraordinary can mean different things to different people. But if someone or an organization achieves something extraordinary, then that's fabulous.
I love that. I think helping people achieve their potential, express their best capabilities in the most effective and efficient way possible is an incredible goal that anyone in a leadership role has to aspire to. So I really love that. A couple of times in the introduction stuff and in our discussions prior, and your discussions even with Kevin before I was brought in, when we all found out he wasn't going to be here, was radically different organizations or progressive organizations, or I mean, this can have things like you hear things like holacracy, sociocracy, self-managing organizations. Some of these things have been around for quite a long time. Often today, they're even given new names like DAO, distributed autonomous organizations. These are all radically different from the traditional top-down, hierarchical, pyramidal, I'm your boss, do what I say structures. I was curious, from all of your experience, what do you think stops organizations and people from doing the absolute best work of their lives and fulfilling their potential?
Well, I think it's about leaders often don't feel the need to change, or they're not ready to listen. And sometimes they just lack the courage to challenge the status quo. And it really stems from the Industrial Revolution. This hierarchy, this command and control stems from that. And I could actually show you an org chart from 100 years ago that you would find quite hard to differentiate from some that you would see today. So it's really about the organization's operating system, and often that is just stuck in old ways. So people still feel like, they're buried in meetings and they don't have enough time to do the work. They've got endless emails, documents, and data, but they're still having trouble finding the information they need. They might be working in teams, but they don't really trust each other. And so they know the way they're working isn't working, but they actually can't imagine an alternative. But despite all of that, there's these radically progressive organizations. One model that I like describes organizations according to the color spectrum, and these progressive organizations are teal. And, people have been writing and talking about this for decades, and there's incredible examples. And yet still, whenever I try and talk about it with very traditional leaders, they just don't want to listen. They're not ready.
Yeah. Well, that'd be Reinventing Organizations, right? From Frederick Laloux, which is an absolutely fantastic book. I also delved out of that when I came from that one, and I read things like Everything to Everyone, which is a study of cooperatives over a long period of time, and even looking at digitization of cooperatives, platform cooperatives. But what would be maybe one really good example that you would hold up as something that people could look at, could study, could even aspire to, perhaps, of one of these radically different organizations?
Well, there are examples across many sectors and industries, but my absolute favourite, everyone who knows me hears me talk about this one all the time. It's called Buurtzorg. It is a Dutch healthcare organisation. It means a neighbourhood care in Dutch. And the founder, Jos de Blok, was just tired of the bureaucracy and disengaged nurses and very unhappy patients. And so he formed a neighbourhood of nurses who were completely empowered to deliver whatever care they wanted to their patients. And they started with a cup of tea. Instead of having micromanagement of 7-minute slots of their day sheet, this model has grown to over 40,000 nurses in over 1,000 teams with no managers. They have the highest client satisfaction of any organisation anywhere, any healthcare organisation anywhere. They're the best employer in the Netherlands for the last 5 years. So what's not to like about a model that is half the cost, it's higher quality and makes happier caregivers? It's actually attracted so much attention. It's now in 25 countries. So it's by far my favourite model.
It's one of my favorites too. And I think there are two really extraordinary things, perhaps. One being they've been able to successfully grow to those 40,000 through acquisition, and the acquired being able to adapt to the structure that Buurtzorg has implemented. And that is extraordinary, right? Because that's really hard. And then the second thing that comes to mind with the Buurtzorg is they put those teams of about, I think, 5 to 7 nurses out into the field, and they do all of their own hiring and firing inside the team while drawing administrative and operational support from the core. I don't think they call it that, but headquarters, right?
And the head office team. There's just a handful of people.
I was going to say, do you remember how many people support those 40,000?
Yeah, they have 50 people in the head office. The founder and his wife are the key leaders. The founder's meeting schedule is largely empty because he doesn't really need to meet with his teams. They have about 40 coaches with no decision-making authority, and they have a few back office people helping with the system, because everything they do is on an iPad. So all of their clinical information as well as their admin is all done via an iPad. So they have about a dozen people managing that, which is extraordinary for tens of thousands of employees.
I just had a conversation this morning over WhatsApp with someone who was sending me the story of Valve. And Valve being another company that has a very unusual no managers type, and it's a fairly extreme, their version of this compared to, say, Buurtzorg. And I wrote him back and I said, but have you heard of Morningstar tomatoes?
Another favorite of mine.
I know, isn't it? And I mean, they're right here in California where I am, and one of the things that I'm sure you can tell us is how they define their job roles.
They do. Well, they have what's called a colleague letter of understanding at Morningstar. And so it's really about each individual defining their mission, which cascades up to their department's mission and then the company's mission. And then they actually describe their commitments, the commitments that they make to others at Morningstar. So it's really incredible. You wouldn't have imagined a tomato processing factory to be a radically progressive organisation. They have about 2,500 employees. They have incredible retention. People feel so proud to be a part of it. And every year they basically write their own contract and work out how they're going to contribute to the outcomes. But they have amazing quality products because of it.
And that little thing there every year, right? That is a commitment. What company do you know? I mean, there are people that work in companies for 20 years and their job description never changes. And I don't know how they survive that, but maybe they don't in the end. I don't know. But this is obviously I'm a student of this as well, so it's amazing to find a kindred spirit that's researching these types of organizations. I've been delving deep into cooperatives for a long time, and how that's evolving into what I think a DAO is, a digitized crypto monetized cooperative. Have you had any experience doing a look around with some of the new distributed autonomous organization?
Only just observing what OpenExO is doing, which is
Yeah.
obviously really interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, apart from that,
Wow.
no. So we'll have to talk further about that
I was
one.
going to say we have to get together. We have to get together later and compare notes, because I really want to do that. So look, this is you gave some sort of numbers, retention, employee count, scalability in particular. These are not guesses anymore. Right? These are proven techniques.
Mm-hmm.
They work.
They do.
It's a commitment, but they work. Why aren't more organizations doing this?
Well, I think it just comes back to, what got me here is how I lead. I've risen up through the traditional ranks, and now I'm in this position of power and authority, and I don't want to let go of that. So I find that leaders are often just not ready to listen. However, I believe the pandemic has created an opportunity to change that, because leaders have had to throw out the rule books. They've no longer been able to spend 3 months doing their budgets for the following financial year. They've no longer been able to lock and load their strategy and just, keep on that in that lane. They've had to throw out the rule books. And so now we have an opportunity to lean into that. So before we refreeze the operating system, we have the opportunity to really create some small steps towards perhaps some of these big audacious examples. Because again, I don't think it's possible to convince a leader to just go to the extreme. What they would feel is very radical and very extreme, even though, as you say, it's been proven for decades. But I do believe that there's little steps that we can take towards those extraordinary examples that can start to shake things up. So things like really questioning meetings, getting rid of email. I mean, if you want to employ millennials, ditch the email, use the channel-based communication. Email is an information sinkhole. Think about what you can make transparent rather than lock everything up and unlock by default. It should be the opposite. And so when I speak about this, I encourage people to think about, well, what might you do within your team or within your department? You can be empowered to make some changes there, and then shine a light on that, share what's going on there with your colleagues, and that has the potential to create ripples.
Yeah, one of our viewers out there, hi Wendy, has left us a comment saying, let me see, I think I can, here we go, look at that. Wendy says, I've actually read that at Valve, you choose your own projects. This is totally true. And insane, if nobody chooses to work on a project, guess what? They don't do it. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, I think that's extraordinary as well. One little thing here, I want to ask you, there's this sort of concept that people don't like change. I think it's pretty true. I think we're hardwired to deal with change, whether we realize it or not, but that doesn't mean we have to like it. We tend to fight it, actually. And then once there's a big change, like this pandemic that you mentioned, right? There's been a little thing going on, the pandemic. And I had a crazy conversation yesterday with one of my kids' swim coaches about the impact of the pandemic on the swim team and the individuals in the swim team. It's a bit heartbreaking, some of the stuff that they're going through as they try to reacclimate. But this concept of reversion to mean after change is what I'm getting at. I'm seeing this hard push to get back to the way things were instead of accepting this newly rewritten rule book now. How do we keep that from happening? How do we get people to accept some of the change and move forward in a positive way?
Well, I think it's about sharing stories. I think it's about keeping the conversation going. And I think it's about finding people that are up for it and shining a light on that. And as I mentioned, I believe that anyone who's working in an organization can influence changes by introducing some of these small steps. I mean, I call them nudges. I try and encourage people to just nudge a little bit. And so you can start to maybe change the dynamic around the way you meet, the way you make decisions,
Yeah,
the
I
way
like
you
that.
share information. And so if you just start to create these little nudges at a micro level and shine a light on that and then encourage others, you really can create ripples. So you're not going to make the radical change overnight,
Yeah.
but it's about finding, kindred spirits, people that are up for it, and really keeping the conversation going. I do believe that, people talk a lot about the great resignation at the moment. And I coined the term the great revelation, because I believe that what I'm seeing is some people are not prepared to tolerate things that they had been tolerating in the past. So they're just feeling like, well, quality of life is actually really important. And we've
Yeah.
had a major lesson in that. We've had a huge moment where things are a matter of life and death, and we really have to rethink. We have to rethink our priorities. And so I do get a sense that some people are really not prepared to tolerate some of these outdated things that they've been dealing with in the past.
Yeah.
And I think by resigning, they're not necessarily going to find the magic in another organization. So why not lean in and create nudges where they are?
Yeah, no, I really like that. Take what's itching, right? And it's hard though. Being an agent for change can attract attention that is not exactly welcome. But if you're going to quit anyway, I mean, you might as well give it a go. You might as well give it a go, right? You're going to leave
Exactly.
anyway, so try to make the change. I certainly would do that, and that's got me in trouble more than once. So for sure. Well, look, one of the ways in the OpenExO ecosystem that we help organizations adapt to, accept, and thrive in the face of change is by running a program that we call the EXO Sprint. You've been on sprints several times.
Yes.
And I thought it'd be great to ask you, because you have that experience, because I know we have lots of other sprint coaches out there and aspiring sprint coaches. What's the biggest takeaway from the sprint work that you've done, the things that you've seen happen as a result of a sprint that really stuck with you that you could share with us?
Sure. Well, I think, one of the EXO attributes is autonomy. And so we use that as one of the elements that we're inspiring our participants to bring in. But when you think about it, a sprint team is almost like a mini teal organization. We're giving people a lot of autonomy. We're making everything really transparent. We're encouraging them to think bold and taking away the guardrails. And so I think that it's a great little experiment of these progressive organizations. And so my big takeaway is that it really is an opportunity for people to think big, to really have all those itchy things that they haven't liked, that they've all been taken away, and they're given this freedom, they're given this autonomy. They are stretched, they are challenged, but in a highly supportive and energetic way. And it's a profound experience. And I also think that the coaching certification process is wonderful, because we actually pretend to work on a sprint. We are given an organization and we pretend to work for that organization. In my case, it was Bayer Pharmaceuticals. And so we live the experience. And so when I'm coaching a team, I can share that lived experience and I can relate to what they're going through, which I think is really powerful. So it's about learning by doing, which is something that I always bring to the work that I do with my clients as well.
I think at least one of the people that was in the testimonials from the beginning were one of your cohort mates in your coaching training, right?
Yes.
I think it was Sophie was. And one of the things that always blows my mind about even the training, even the training, which is technically not entirely real, anybody who goes through a sprint and they get onto their edge teams or their core teams, they forge lifelong friendships as a result of this. And that only happens to you when you're like in grade school or preschool, and when you're in college or high
Yes.
school. Maybe there are only these few epochs in your life where you truly make friends. And we've seen that again and again with the sprint processes, all of them: fast tracks, EXO works, and EXOs type sprints, quests. It's because they're stressful in a part, but it's amazing. So I really appreciate you pointing that out. That's really a good one. Um, you know the you know well, you talked a little bit about the training and certification, and you've shared a little bit of why that's really extraordinary. But what do you train for? You train to become a consultant or a coach. And so I know for sure that sometimes people come and they watch OpenExO live to see other people that have gone through this. Is there any tip or learning or advice that you would give to any aspiring coaches out there?
Just to get involved in the community. It's such a giving community. And to your point, you make incredible bonds and friendships with people by being involved in these experiences. So whether it's the certification or mentor coaching or being involved in a sprint, just grasp any opportunity to get involved, because you will meet extraordinary people and you will develop some incredible bonds and relationships. You'll also find people that have similar passions that you can collaborate with and connect with, but you'll also find people that have incredible talents that you'd never even heard of before. So it's just an incredible community that's very sharing and giving. And so my big piece of advice is just get involved.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's one of the things we're most happy about that exists as a result of a book that was written in 2014 is that there's incredible community here that are literally helping and lifting each other up. So I love that. I love that. The sprints themselves are meant to be catalysts for change in a corporation. We say that we suppress the organizational immune system. We open up innovation. We push things to the edge. There's just all these words that we use. Do you think that's true? And if so, why?
I absolutely do think it's true, because, people have described the sprint as almost like a mini MBA in 10 weeks, a life-changing experience. It doesn't just impact their work, it actually impacts their mindset. And they're more likely to be bold and courageous and think big and be more confident in what they approach. Yeah. So it's absolutely a catalyst for change. The sprint does introduce people to these more contemporary ways of working. This, autonomy, this transparency, this permission to think bold and courageous. So it's quite liberating. And as I said, people are almost working in a teal bubble. So they don't want to go back to these outdated processes.
Right.
And so, but that is also a challenge, because taking that back to a more traditional mindset and culture, you can have this situation where the corporate immune system kicks in and eats it up. And that's one of the reasons why I think through the sprint process, it's very important to coach the leaders as well, the sponsors and the other players, because they need to go on the journey too, so that we're creating fertile ground for these new ways of working to cultivate and grow.
Beautifully said. Couldn't agree more. You have a company. Your company is NextGenify. Would you take a minute to tell us what NextGenify is about? What do you do there, and what's its goal and its purpose? And why'd you do that? Why'd you start a company? That's always hard, starting a company. What would make you do such a thing?
Absolutely. And, I've been working in change for 30 years. And I guess I've always just had this issue about seeing countless change programs go off course, lose traction, and fail to deliver the anticipated value. And, today's organizations really are facing unprecedented challenges. It's that VUCA environment. Mm-hmm. And I've really thought deeply about this in terms of, why do transformations or change programs fail? And why have we got these radically progressive organizations over here that people don't want to listen? They just talk to the hand, Well, what can we do about that? So one of the key insights I've gained is that many organizations don't integrate the key activities for successful and sustainable change. So they might have all these activities going on about capability development and strategic planning and, being more agile and, all sorts of things, some innovation that might happen over there in the corner. But all of these activities are not aligned and integrated. And that's a real impediment for successful and sustainable change.
Yeah. In addition to aligned In addition to aligned and integrated, I would add incentivized, but you've developed a model?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've developed a model which has 8 zones for transformation activity. Oh. And I believe the more of these zones are integrated, the more sustainable a change will be. And change is continuous. We can't just say we've done that change, we're good now. That just doesn't exist. I've also developed a series of signature programs aligned to my model so that we can get rapid uplift. So if an organisation has just got a blind spot in a particular area, then we can work together either through some coaching or through a workshop. And one of the actual zones of my model is innovation. Well, I've got innovation and disruption. They're two of the biggest blind spots. And so the innovation piece is a segue into an EXO sprint. So that's a really nice way that it all fits together. So it's really about coaching and supporting organisations to help align and integrate a lot of their activity so that it's embedded. All of these things are embedded.
That's great. I can't wait to talk to you again after this when we have a little more time. We're coming up on time today. I want to give you a minute to say two things, please. One is, where can people go learn more about your work? That's one. And two is there any last thing that I forgot to ask you that you really wish you could share with the audience out there? And remember, this gets watched a lot in replays over a long period of time, so make it timeless.
Okay, thank you. So the first point is my website is nextgenify.com. It's actually about to be the new version. It's just a holding page right now, but the new version is coming in a matter of days. So check that out. I'm really excited about my new website. And it does show you my model and further details about why I created this particular business. Mm-hmm. The second one is what I would like to share with you. So I really believe that we're at a major punctuation point in organisational evolution. And I believe this is our moment to create the next generation of work that can be a better place for ourselves, our future generations, our society and our planet. And that's what this community is all about. It's about purpose and it's about impact. So I think the world has had a crash course in living differently. And COVID has really forced us to rethink what's important and what we're not prepared to tolerate anymore. So now that we've unfrozen the organisation's operating systems, we've got a really big opportunity to reinvent organisations from the inside out. So I want to inspire people to actively play a part in shaping the future of their organisation, no matter what your role or status is, by taking small steps towards extraordinary.
Well, there you go. Or said by Nike, just do it. Right?
Just do it. Yeah.
It's like we've got to just take some agency and get out there and go. And I think you've done that with your company. Obviously, every entrepreneur that's ever existed did that. They took agency and they saw the way something could be different or better, or they thought, and they've made that real. So that's what we need to do if we want this to stick, isn't it? The global. This is a strange analogy to use given a pandemic, but the global immune system to the change in the corporate environment is currently suppressed. It's trying to come back, right? And that's an autoimmune issue more than but it's trying to come back. And so in order, maybe what you're telling us is, if we just take action and agency, we might be able to suppress it long enough to make some of these really positive changes permanent.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Well, we're all wrapped up for time today. Cherie, thank you so much for being here. You've been a member of our community for years. You've contributed in numerous ways. I couldn't be happier to have you here on the show today. And thank you to Kevin for setting this up for you and making it work and making it all so easy for me to just step in and temporarily come in and host and get to have a wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Cherie. Take care.
Thank you.